afternoon, evening, everyone. I hope you're well. I'm just sitting in the car after dropping my kids, and yeah, it's -6 here in the UK. But it's nice and fresh. There's the sun peeking through, and I kind of this is how I'm trying to how I'm trying. No, this is how I'm embodying life going forward. Where rather than the hustle and bustle all the time, I've got to do this, and it's doing. It's just actually taking the foot off the accelerator, or like before I put the keys in the ignition, give myself a little bit of a break, and then check out the sun that's peeking through the tree over here, or something else. I can see some steam coming out of a chimney, or I can see the frost, whatever it is and stuff. These are things that I never used to notice because my foot was on the accelerator all the time. And the problem is, by putting your foot on the accelerator, almost like a brick that's constantly on, and you're on the motorway or wherever it is, and you're in the fast lane, you're driving, and then everything's just blurry. You can't really see anything. It's almost like when a camera lens fogs up, or it's got dirt on it or something like that, and you are not really taking in things that are going on around you. So I felt like I was chasing, what do I call it? I call it chasing rainbows, unicorns, bloody pots of gold at the end of the rainbow, which felt like money. When I was growing up, it might have been, I watched a film called That Thing You Do, which had Tom Hanks back in the 90s. And I watched this when I was 11. And it was like a band then got a hit, and they blew up. And it was all going well until the record label wanted them to do X, Y, and Z. So there was like lots of control and things. And so what started off as really pure, kind of like a hobby, which is most musicians go into, when it becomes a career, it's when then the red tape can start to go around it. You're not creating for the sake of creating anymore. You're now creating to get a transaction, to get expectation, to get to mold it into life. And so you can then start to lose the purpose of it. And it's kind of got me thinking. I used to think that way, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to become famous. I want to go and do this when I'm older. And chasing something like fame and money and prestige, or even chasing legacy and things as well. These are kind of such vague words that can get us so tangled, and especially if we have a neurodivergent brain as well, because I have this kind of mindset sometimes that's well, most of the time actually, that is like acute kind of pattern recognition. So I can't just see linear. I can't even talk in linear most of the time. It's like connecting dots all the time, and it's that can be incredible when you're in a creative space, but it can be incredibly overwhelming when you are, out with your children, you're out with your family, you're out doing something specific, and or you're in a conversation with someone, but then you're like, every single sound is exactly the same volume, same priority. Every single thought becomes exactly the same priority, every single emotion. And if they're exact same priority, and you've got 5 different sounds going on, your brain is then split into 5 different angles. And so it's 20%. And then you then up that. So that's sensory, you're listening to it. What if you've got 5 other things going on in your life? You've got, I've had times where I was looking after the children, but then I was then trying to do learn a piece. I was doing my business. I had to do this chore. I had to do this task, and I can't compartmentalise. So all of those 5 things would be exact same priority. And so if I've got 5 tasks, 5 senses, sensory sound, and could be smell and things as well, that then ups it to 10. So that means then it's taken my focus and concentration from one single route to splitting it to 10. So I've got 10% focus on one. And then that basically, if it compounds, so if mental health starts to kick in, and my quest at the moment is to delve into more evidence, more data, more education, that I see mental health for neurodivergent world as symptoms. So stress, anxiety, depression, things as well. But at the core is neurodivergent traits. Um, whether it's ADHD traits, autism traits, dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, Tourette's. Um, and it's interesting when, I got my ADHD. I had my dyslexia diagnosis back in 2004 at university. And then I didn't get my ADHD and autism ones until, what was it, 2023. So almost 20 years on. And now I've got three of these, labels, conditions, or whatever you want to call it. And actually, I'm like, actually, I've probably got traits of all of the neurodivergent, labels and stuff as well. But there is a primary one, which is ADHD for me. And it's interesting. It's just when you're kind of starting to analyze these things without external resources. So I'm not reading books here to try and find out this information. I'm not listening to a podcast. I'm not trying to find things to fill gaps in my knowledge and stuff. What I'm allowing to do is sit with myself on my own, look out the window, look at other things, and then just allow my brain to unravel. Just be curiously aware of what's going on. Because I've had a lot of like parents get in contact with me, and they've maybe got an autistic child or something like that, and they said, I've tried everything. What do you suggest I do? It's just like, well, stop trying everything, stop the doing, and sit back maybe for a day. And I think this is what we could do for ourselves as well. Sit back for a day, or however it is, and be curiously aware of what's going on with ourselves. Now, it's really hard to be present, especially with an ADHD brain and everything as well, and trying to ground ourselves and stuff as well. And I think these become skills. And what was interesting about Heart FM, bringing it back around, was it was talking about happiness. And the life coaches on there were saying, happiness is not expected. It's not something that you chase. It's not something that you wait for. Happiness is a skill. And they came up with a few things where if you smile for 5 seconds, you'll start to notice the chemicals in your body. And if you're curiously aware, you can start to see it. You've obviously got to be in an environment that, if you're having a really bad day, it might not change it straight away. So you might need to smile for a lot longer. And I know it feels like forcing, which feels like masking, but it's almost like a tool of actually taking those muscles. It sends signals to the brain. So that's one thing you can do. Then it talked about looking, analyze, being aware of your posture for 5 seconds. So these are like 5-second rules or 5-second tips and stuff. And I was like, this is brilliant. And then I had one thing where I spoke to my son this morning, and we're going through really heavy things, really heavy transitions and stuff. But it's things that we can carry around. And I think as neurodivergents, we need things that are visual. And they're basically, if you take your 2 thumbs and your 8 fingers, and you have your top 5 things in your life, right? But you can have 2 for each number. So my thumbs, for instance, are my 2 children. So every time I feel blur, I'm having a bad day and stuff as well, I've got, right, I'm going to go through these top 5 or top 10 or whatever it is. So I've got my 2 children, then I've got my parents, I've got my siblings, so as number 2s. Then I've got my, my guitar, and Lord of the Rings or whatever it is. Obviously, there's my health, there's other stuff as well, but it'd probably be, my guitar, and I could say creativity and stuff as well, but I embody creativity. And then it'd be Lord of the Rings and Plex, which is, TV shows and stuff as well. And then it'll be walking in nature, and it'll be my playlist, whatever it is. Obviously, you can shuffle these around, reprioritize, and nothing's set in stone. But what it does, it just allows me to go through, whilst I'm smiling at the same time, go through these things, and you can add music to that. And I know it's not necessarily a neurodivergent musician. This is more a neurodivergent thing, because I think as neurodivergent musicians, we are also neurodivergent creatives. It's basically finding tangible things that are visual to us that we can see straight away. So Mel Robbins talks about, she brought out two books. One's called The 5 Second Rule, and if you've got something that comes up that is really hard, you've got 5 seconds to try and answer it and things. Also, if you go to the mirror, high five yourself. And then the other one is let them. So, and let them could be not toxic stoicism, where it's just like you suppress your emotions, and you just act like nothing's going on, keep calm, carry on, sort of thing. No, that's not it. It's let them. If someone said something negative, we get RSD if something's coming on. But then we let me. I let myself control what's going on in the situation. So there's little tiny tools and little things that we can carry around all the time that allow us to then go back into channeling into our music, into how we live in life, and grounds ourselves. But one thing I do encourage for all musicians to do, and again, what I'm really being wary of, is I don't want to give advice, like tips, value, in a way of like, go and try this, and it feels like a doing thing, or it feels like, why is he giving me advice? Well, how does he know all this sort of stuff as well? Because when someone gives me advice, as a neurodivergent who was masking for so many years, for 38 years, I used to take on everybody's advice, but I wasn't listening to my own intuition. So I now process it from my own internal decision matrix. And advice, then I sort of think, actually, no, I have no right to give advice. What I can do is just share my own perspective and sort of perception with it, and subjective way of living and stuff. But I sort of find, if you turn up to your instrument, actually name your instrument first. It might sound stupid, right? But it's by calling it piano or just guitar, right? You've got a plank of wood and strings. It then becomes an object. It becomes a learning tool. It becomes just something that you do. But by naming it, and I found this is what as an autistic person myself, I name objects, right? But if I called a dog just dog, it just, I wouldn't really have a connection to it. As soon as I call it a name, now I want a dog, I'm manifesting a dog, and I want to call it Eowyn, which is from Lord of the Rings. And that will have a deeper connection, and my children will connect to it, yada, yada, yada. But my guitar's called Luna, right? And so I call her my best friend and therapist. And instead of picking her up and practicing her every day, I communicate with her every day. I connect with her every day. And if I only communicated with her once a week, I wouldn't have a relationship with her. So by picking her up, and also no expectation, no beating myself up, no negativity. If I do all those positive things, the happiness stuff, that go through all my 10 things that are positive in my life, that they're my purpose, they're my why, and then I smile 5 seconds. If I go in with intention where I'm going to smile whilst I'm playing my guitar, it's going to send signals, right, to my fingertips. But by also having a relationship with my guitar, or my piano might be another name, or I've got a new bass guitar. I don't pick the name straight away. I look at the bass, or I look at the instrument, and I work it out over time. But it'd be like if you're a painter and you've got brushes. call your brushes names, you know, or your pencil. It sounds stupid, and obviously you might not want to tell other people that, but the reason why I do it is because it's just got another connection. And then I process my life through my guitar, and that's my favorite process, because I'm not doing it deliberately. I'm not doing it as a transactional thing. I must do this on my guitar to get this out of it. It's like, no, that's not how it works. You know, building muscle memory, building these things takes time. And I'm going to do another video about muscle memory because it's a powerful thing here, but just something to think about. Loads of things to take in there, but yeah, anyway, have a good day. See you soon.